Shaandiin, Rayka, hey, congratulations on your short film, Long Line of Ladies.
It's almost a tongue twister.
Yeah.
It is.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? More importantly, it's being showcased at Sundance Film Festival. So tell me, how do you ladies feel about that?
I mean, it's really like in the film world, it's like one of the biggest honors, truly. And we're just so excited to like come right out of the gate with this film and just have such a wonderful platform. I think like the family, they're very excited. We wish it could have been in person, but we're so grateful that we even have the opportunity to screen there.
Definitely, really excited about it.
That is terrific to hear. So let's ask that easy question. What sparked you two to actually do this documentary? I mean, this to the rest of us, we never heard of this.
Definitely, I think Rayka can respond to the initial sparks of inspiration.
Yeah, I did this kind of like way back. There's an organization called the PAD Project, and their mission is really to educate people on menstrual hygiene, menstrual awareness and equity. And with the PAD Project, I made the film a few years ago now, probably like 4 years ago now, called Period End of Sentence. And that film really shed light on the stigmas around menstruation, especially in northern India. And it was a film that really like helped the menstrual equity movement in a lot of ways. But I think after that, I, along with the PAD Project, there was this like sort of desire to look to communities that actually had been celebrating menstruation long before this movement. And so not really shedding light on the stigma, but rather like how do we put spotlight a family or a community that is uplifting a girl during this time in her life. And so some research was done, and basically we came across the Ihuk ceremony, which is the coming of age of the Karuk tribe in Northern California. Contacted Kim Allen, who's the mother of Ati Allen, the subject in the film, and it kind of just all started there.
So how did you want to approach your subjects? Were they hard to convince to have you film the pre-ceremony traditions?
I think there's always a lot of hesitation, I think, with any Native culture in like filming and like creating, I guess, a documentary about a culture, because generally it tends to get sifted through and picked apart in a very logical standpoint, which I feel like is completely against what almost any Native culture is about. And I think that hesitance is there for good reason. And so I think the family was hesitant at first, but I think there was a lot of trust building and vulnerability to be happened to create the I guess like themes in which we were going for, which was that we didn't want to shoot the ceremony and we wanted to shoot like everything that was happening before, because that showcased in my experience, like the essence of what ceremony is, which is like family, which is community, which is being together. And it's usually, I guess, like non-Indigenous audiences tend to gravitate towards this romanticized version of what a Native person is. And like seeing a ceremony, they're like, oh my God, that's so otherworldly and so different than what I know. And so I'm going to like hold on to that instead of understanding the essence of everything that goes on through that, which is like the daily life, how they interact with each other, the relationships that they have together. And so like to be able to capture those like very modern things in a way that like people could understand was like really important to us, I think, and important to the family, because it paints a portrait of modern day Indigenous peoples and how they function in the world today.
So how did you actually try to film the schedules, or try to make appointments? I mean, I want to say the area of California.
Yeah. It's not, and it's beautiful. Shaandiin, you want to respond?
Yeah, I guess we just like kind of like went through beforehand and was like trying, I mean, it was a lot of conversation and a lot of like Zooms and that sort of thing, and trying to like understand what were the processes beforehand and like what did we need to be there for. And I think the family is around all the time, so just like come up here when you're free, and we'll basically try to pack in as much as we can in what we normally do. But most of the time in the preparation for the ceremony, they're just doing it alongside of what they're normally doing. I think it wasn't necessarily trying to find like specific moments. It was more just like, come watch us and witness us, and we'll be here basically.
So I'm curious, did you two even witness the ceremony, or did you decide to skip that and leave it as a private family affair?
Yeah, we didn't witness the ceremony, and it was also very intentional in the filmmaking and the storytelling to not capture the ceremony. You know, it's something like this process of making this documentary is very different than like anything that I've ever experienced before. In that it is incredibly like important that the family themselves felt a sense of ownership over their story, and the film itself and the story, and who is a subject in the film is a producer on the film. And it was very much like, let's have these conversations before, you know, the camera's even rolling, so that we understand like what we can capture and what we can't capture. And it, you know, it was very much an idea that like Shaandiin was pushing as well, which is like, why do we need to see the ceremony even? You know, is it supporting Ati every step of the way, even after the ceremony, even when the cameras leave and this film is over? Like, Ati's going to have those people, same people with her for the rest of her life, supporting her. And to like this is like, the audience doesn't get to see it, this is theirs to have, and we'll just kind of leave it at that.
What was the decisions your decision, or was it the family's decision? In
have us shoot the ceremony overall, and then there was a moment there where like maybe certain parts and that sort of thing. But I think us making like a firm decision that we did not want to shoot the ceremony really brought them at ease, and I think created more of a respect with each other, and like trying to understand what we were really going for. And I think it was just a lot of conversations and process and understanding. And I think at the end of the day, like, I think the family realized that they didn't want to overshare too much, and that we were like really happy that we came to the creative decision to figure out like, how do we experience this without trying to, I guess, like be too present like at the ceremony, or infringe on like what they're doing, or like even take that experience away from Ati.
And obviously the experience for Ati was significant and terrific for her, you know, in all aspects through those stages.
Yeah, she's an incredible young woman. Like, honestly, like she's
13.
My hero.
She's 13, and like we couldn't believe she was 13, because like you see her hanging out with friends and skateboarding and stuff, and you go, oh, she's 13. But then you see the way that she like carries herself, and you know, and us just like talking to her in conversations that we had, and you go, wow, she's not at all.
This was a tradition that actually goes back long ago, and they're just starting to re-carry this tradition again.
Yeah, it was dormant for a while, and I think that's a lot unfortunately, a lot of the history of most Indigenous peoples in this country is that a lot of their ceremonies and culture and language and that sort of thing were taken away from them in hopes to assimilate who they were into a more westernized culture. And so they were very much a factor of this whole entire country coming to being. And so like it was later on in the process because they were so far west in California, but it was still something that really hurt them. And because of like there isn't a lot of tribal members, like to have them come together and like really like with a few people basically go through and try to revitalize the ceremony and carry that tradition forward in such a beautiful way. And they're just constantly thinking about the next generation. And even Ati is like thinking about the next generation. And it's like wild to see, I guess, that time frame within their minds. Whereas like most people are like, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. They're like 200 years in the future, where are we going to be?
Wow, that is excellent. And for the ceremony itself, because I know the pre-traditions was actually fascinating, but for you personally, did they explain to you personally like the significance and meaning of some of the stuff? You know, the blindfold, the skirt, the bowl, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of explanation because it was, I think, important for us to understand too, like what the meaning is behind some of these things. Like, for instance, when Ati is blindfolded, like it's a time for her to go inside and reflect, you know, for several days and really be thinking about her experience. And then when the tav is removed, like Almi, her dad, says in the film, you know, she appears back into the world as a woman. And now she can sort of like look outward and be thinking about like how she can support other young girls as they go through this time in their lives. So there was a lot of like educating us, I guess, on the family's end. But as far as like sharing a lot of that information on film, you know, I think we're very like selective about like what info was necessary to be shared for the sake of the story, and what info just, you know, wasn't necessary.
Awesome. Well, let me leave it up with one last question here. As you know, Sundance audiences are going to get to check out this your short documentary film, and possibly more people down the road. What is the one most important take that you hope that they walk away with?
Rayka, do you want to go first, or?
Sure. I think like for, you know, when I think about a non-native audience watching this film, I think about like how it impacts people. It's like how can you like observe this family and their community, and just like how much love and support there is within this community for young girls and for young people. And how can you then look inside and look at your own community and your own culture and be thinking about like ways that you could bring that love and support to young people in your community. Like that's for me like what I think is what I really hope people take away from it.
You want to add something, Shaandiin?
Yeah, I think it goes in line exactly with what Rayka is saying. And I think it's mostly that, I guess like in my experience, a lot of Native stories have been exploited. And so like, I hope people see this and don't want more in being able to see like the ceremony itself happen, and realize that like what it means to understand the processes in which the family goes through is to understand who they are in relation to each other. And that's the beauty of what they do. And that's like ceremony and culture for them. It's an everyday thing. And that respect and I guess intuition of like the next generations that they have is so intrinsic to who they are, but like it's possible by a lot of people. And I think that's exactly what Rayka is saying, is that you don't necessarily have to have some sort of ceremonious experience in order to create change in the world.
Most excellent answers. Well, Thank you very much, ladies, for speaking to us about your short documentary, Long Line of Ladies. It's a terrific, terrific and touching film. And the one thing I do know is that I don't know if I could ever fast for 3-4 days. That's that's for certain.
I could not.
Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we get to do this again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and your great questions.
Thank you.